Hello, everyone. This is Deborah Poneman with New Transformation Strategies, and I am beyond thrilled to be interviewing Dr. Bradley Nelson. As you know, this series is all about discovering new ways to make our lives really work. As I'm sure we can all agree, our lives are accelerating and shifting before our eyes, and much of what we used to rely on as stable and dependable is falling away. And now more than ever, we need knowledge and tools to get us through what many are experiencing as challenging times. For this series, I've brought together amazing people whose lives are dedicated to bringing us these tools and this knowledge so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel and figure it out ourselves, but rather use what these people have to give us so that we can enjoy our lives and thrive, not just survive in the days to come. And if there is anyone who has something new and powerfully transformational to offer, it is Dr. Bradley Nelson. So, Dr. Brad, welcome.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm so glad to be here with you. It's going to be fun.
I am very excited. Dr. Brad Nelson is not only a holistic chiropractic physician and medical intuitive, but a true pioneer in the field of holistic health. He is widely recognized as a speaker and gifted teacher and has lectured internationally on the natural healing of chronic illness. He's also considered to be one of the world's foremost experts in the emerging fields of bioenergetic medicine and energy psychology. And Dr. Brad is the author of the mega bestseller, The Emotion Code, a system that can show how emotions get trapped in our physical bodies and affect every aspect of our lives. And he also gives you the means to release them and thus enjoy better health, decrease or even eliminate physical and emotional problems, end self-sabotage, end recurring relationship problems, financial problems, et cetera, and we know all of those et ceteras. And Dr. Brad says that the reality is that you are a powerful being, fully capable of things that may lie far beyond your wildest dreams at this point. And today he's going to share with us not only how these hidden energies can cause us harm, but how to release those energies and how to tear down the walls that are keeping us from health, happiness, and success through the emotion code. So, Dr. Brad, thank you again. I'm so excited about this interview because so many people rave about you and your work, and I'm honored to be interviewing you today.
Well, I'm the one that's honored to be on your show. Thank you. I know that a lot of the people that are household names now were students of yours years ago. So
they were. Thank you. Yes, they were, and I'm so proud of them. Anyway, I want to start out by having you share a little bit about your own journey and perhaps share the major turning points that allowed you to manifest this amazing body of work that's really has swept not only the country but the world. I mean, the emotion code is considered to be one of the most, if not the most powerful form of energy healing on the market today. So I would love to know your journey and where it began.
Well, you know, it's an interesting thing, and I'll tell you, it actually goes back a long way. When I was 7 years old, I was very, very sick with the measles, and my folks were talking about how the next day I was going to be taken to the hospital, and they were talking about an oxygen tent and so on. And I learned when I was 7 years old about the power of prayer because I had an amazing experience where my mother and father had made a couch for me in the living room upstairs near their bedroom, and so they could be close to me. And one night, everybody else had gone to bed, and I remember this is like it was yesterday. I can remember this so well. My folks came walking into the living room, and my mother said to my father, she said, "Daddy, will you please say a prayer for this boy that he'll be able to get well?" And my dad was not he was not a praying guy. I don't think I'd ever seen him pray before, but But my mother and father knelt down by the side of the couch, and my father said this prayer. And it was just a real simple, heartfelt sort of a prayer asking God to help me. And as he was praying, I felt a change that started at the top of my head, and it went through my body, whoosh, and just within seconds. And I was completely well. Before he was even done praying, I was made well. And it's an astonishing thing, an unforgettable thing to go from being very, very ill to being completely well just in the snap of a finger, basically. And I waited to say anything until he was done because I didn't want to be rude. But when he was done, just a few seconds later, I told both of them, I said, I'm well. Heavenly Father fixed me. I was really excited, and they were kind of dismissive. They said, "Okay, well, that's fine. Go ahead and you go to sleep now." But I was better, and the next day proved it. So that experience was amazing because it taught me how powerful prayer is, and that prayers can be answered. And so, then what happened to me was I ended up, when I was about 13 years old, I ended up with kidney disease, and medically there was nothing that could be done for me, and it was a serious situation, and I had my kidneys were kind of they were hemorrhaging at a low level all the time, and I was getting these pains in my back like I'd been stabbed that would put me on the ground, and there was nothing medically that could be done for me. And so my parents took me to get chiropractic care, and the people that worked on me were actually old-time osteopathic doctors who, when the osteopathic profession was kind of taken over and engulfed by the medical profession, they didn't want to have anything to do with it, and so they kind of stayed out of it. And they practiced in a little trailer house out in the middle of this field that when it would rain, it would get terribly muddy. But they had busloads of people that would come to them, and they were really miracle workers. And they told me that I had a bone out of alignment in my back that was irritating the nerves that were traveling between my brain and my kidneys, and it had weakened my kidneys. So when this disease came along, I got it. And so anyway, they started working with me, and within a few weeks, I was feeling dramatically better. And I got to a point where pretty quickly I forgot that I was ever even sick. And so my parents took me back to the clinic, and they ran all these tests, and they said, well, it's a spontaneous remission, it's remarkable. Whatever we did must have worked. And of course, they hadn't really done anything. And it was at that point that I knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I wanted to be that kind of a doctor that gets people well in a very completely natural way. And if I had to practice out in the middle of a muddy field, that was okay with me. I didn't care. And so that was my plan. And so years went on. Then I got into computer programming, and I got into business and really loved all of that. And so I decided I was going to go that direction. And I was about 6 months away from going into the MBA program at Brigham Young University. And we went home, my wife and I went home to Montana. This is in 1983. And we were sitting around with my mother and father. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, my dad said to me, "Are you sure you don't want to go to chiropractic school, because it seems like a really great career and you've always wanted to do it?" And I said, "No, I'm going this other direction." And he said, "Well, why don't you think about it one more time?" And I said, "Well, all right." So I did. So I made up with my wife a pro and con list, trying to figure out what decision to make. And I was still kind of on the middle of the fence. And so that night I got on my knees and I prayed and I asked God, help me to know what to do here. I don't know. I'll go either way if you have anything to say about this. And so I went to sleep. Well, that night I had a recurring experience where 3 different times I was awakened, and I was awakened to find my mind filled with these warm, happy, positive thoughts about going into the healing arts, and I would think about that, and I'd think, well, yes, okay, but then this other direction is also good, and I'd fall back asleep. And so that happened 3 times that night. So the next day I still wasn't convinced, and the next night found me on my knees again praying and asking God for help. And I'm sure he must have been thinking, boy, this person, this kid's really got a thick head. But anyway, the same thing happened to me that night. And it was like waking up from a dream, but I don't think it actually was a dream. I think it was just I would wake up and be filled with these thoughts of service, and it was a very happy, very positive kind of a thing. Well, this second night, it was it was really amazing because each time I would be awakened with these feelings, the feelings were geometrically more powerful than the time before. And the third time that I was awakened that night, I was overwhelmed with thoughts of service to mankind and humanity. And it was so powerful. And at that moment, as I was feeling that overwhelming feeling, I actually heard a voice that spoke to me. And it said, "This is a sacred calling." And I thought, okay, I've got my answer. That's enough. And I've thought about that for many years, and I believe that anytime we are trying to help someone to get well or to get over the problems that they have, whether they're emotional or physical or whatever they are, we're doing a sacred thing, because when you take somebody who cannot live their life fully and who cannot reach their destiny that they're supposed to be able to reach here in this world, and you free them so that they can do that, it's like dropping a pebble into the pond of eternity, and those ripples spread out, and they go on, and you don't ever know where they're going to end. And so that's why I really believe it is a sacred thing. Well, when I got into practice, I was really focused on doing whatever I had to do to get my patients well. And I didn't care if it was something new. I didn't care if it was something that maybe had never been heard of or thought of before. And I got into the habit of praying. And I remember when I first got into practice, my thought was, well, God, you got me into this. You've got to help me now, because I really need help with these people. And so as time went on, this just became a habit. And gradually over time, more and more information just kind of flowed to me. And eventually, I started teaching seminars. I also, all along, I had this very powerful, very strong motivation to empower people and to help people to help themselves. And I don't know where that came from, but it was just burning inside of me all the time. And so when I started to learn how people could help themselves and how this can be so easy, I started teaching seminars on this. And I did that for a number of years, probably 10 or 12 years. And then finally I got the message from up above that I needed to I needed to sell everything that I owned, and I needed to move somewhere else, and I needed to write a book, and it had to go out to the whole world, because this stuff wasn't just for me. These methods weren't just for me. And so I don't even take any credit for the emotion code. But to help you understand what the emotion code is, just really quickly, as we go through our lives, we experience different emotions. And sometimes those emotions are really powerful. And I mean, it's a good thing that we have emotions, that we experience them, because otherwise our lives would just be shades of gray and life wouldn't be worth living. But sometimes we hit these emotional lows where we're feeling intense negative emotions of sorrow or grief or depression or anger or whatever it is. During those times where those emotions are so powerful, that energy, the energy of that emotion, that vibrational energy, because that's what emotions are, is they're actually specific energies that we feel. That energy can get stuck in the body. It can become lodged in the body. It's almost like the physical body can't deal with emotions that are very intense. And so what happens is we develop what we call a trapped emotion. And a trapped emotion is literally a ball of energy from about the size of a baseball to about the size of a cantaloupe. These things are completely invisible. It took me 17 years to figure out what was going on with these things, because they're totally invisible. And yet I have seen them be at the root of every disease process, every emotional problem, every kind of self-sabotage that I've seen in 23 years now. And I'm talking about everything from depression to phobias, panic attacks, to back pain, Bell's palsy, to mental illnesses, learning disabilities, anxiety, hip pain, diagnosed diseases like lupus, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. I mean, I spent the last 10 years that I was in practice specializing in working with people who had been told that there was really no cure for what they had. And the common denominator with all of them, including all the other people that I saw that were just suffering from more mundane conditions like migraine headaches or infertility, they all had the same underlying problem. And that problem was that their emotional baggage was dragging them down and interfering with their ability to be healthy. And so the emotion code came out of this practice of mine where I was working with these people and trying to help them to function better and to get well. Well, the beautiful thing about the emotion code is that it's so simple. And that's really why it's spreading so fast and why there's so much excitement about this all over the world, because finally there is a method that anybody can use and that is so simple that literally anybody, even kids, can do it. In fact, I was teaching a seminar recently down in Anaheim, an emotion code seminar, and there was one of the attendees was talking to me, and she said that her son is 11 years old, and he read the emotion code book, and he started listening to the book on audios, and he started practicing on his friends. He's 11 years old. Well, a couple of weeks later, this woman calls her up, and she says, my son has been the subject of your son. Your son's been doing some work with him. And she said, I need to know what's going on, because she said, my son has had a phobia of water for many years. And she said, right now, he's out in the pool. And I don't understand how this is working or what's going on. But this is the kind of thing that's happening. I mean, this is a major change in our ability to help ourselves, because you see, we all have emotional baggage, and we always have said things like, well, she's just got a lot of emotional baggage, and we would laugh and think, well, that's just kind of a silly expression. But you know what? There's truth in it, profound truth in it, because we are the result. Our lives are the result a lot of the time of our emotional baggage. Our emotional baggage is what holds us back and what slows us down and what interferes with our ability to succeed and to be healthy. And I've come to the conclusion that about 90% of the pain that we experience is actually caused by our emotional baggage. And the emotion code gives us this incredibly simple, easy way to find that baggage and just release it. And it's so simple. Oftentimes, people say to me, "Well, Dr. Nelson, this is just, it seems too simple." And my response is always, "Well, I could make it more complicated for you if you'd like, but why?" So.
Well, this is absolutely amazing. You said so many things. First of all, I love your story because it also points out that some of the experiences in our life that seem so traumatic are often our greatest gifts. Like first you had the measles, and that's when you realized the power of prayer. Then you had the kidney disease, and it could have been, oh my God, I have kidney disease, but it led you to those the osteopaths in the trailer through the mud, and just every single experience. So we know that every experience is as intense as it might seem is always going to lead us to something better. And look where it's led you. And I'm just fascinated by the fact that you say that these emotions, these intense emotions like grief, they get trapped, and some of them are large, like the size of a golf ball or even the size of a cantaloupe. And I know that you are also a medical intuitive, so you could actually see these on the subtle level of a person's being, and you could see how they are the basis of even things like phobias or ADD or lupus. So it's not like this is a theory. This is something that you actually have seen on a subtler level of creation, correct?
Well, I don't actually see them myself. However, usually at our seminars, there's usually somebody who has that ability to see these. I haven't asked for that yet, but but I pick them up through testing, and they're definitely there. But you can feel these things, and what they feel like when you have one of these identified. They will come out of the body. Normally they're under the skin, but when you go through this very short, easy process of identifying one of these, usually takes about a minute, they will actually emerge out from the skin. They'll come out into the energy field, and you can muscle test and find exactly where they are and how big they are, and you can actually feel that too. And if you hold your hand out in front of you right now, And if you blow on your hand with the faintest breath that you can just barely register, you feel that?
Yes.
That faint breeze, that's basically what these feel like. Sometimes it's more pronounced. Sometimes it feels like you're putting your hand into a refrigerator. Sometimes they feel hot. Sometimes they feel very cold. But that's what these things are. They are real. And so
and
what
that's
happens,
how it feels as they're going out?
Well, just before you release one of these, what happens is you go through this little process. And if you'd like, I can take you through the process right now, and we can release one.
Really?
Sure.
Wow, I would love that.
Okay, all right, here we go. You ready? Do you have anything that's bothering you right now?
Well, physically?
Or physically or in any other way.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that is a huge block in my life when you were talking about that it also could take care of emotional things that are manifesting because of trapped emotions. One of the things that I have is I always have to be doing something. I have to achieve. It's like I'm a work achieveaholic.
Okay.
And it causes me to, if I'm relaxing, I feel like something's wrong.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, sure. Let's take a look
enough?
and see. So now here's what I'm going to show you. Now, one of the things that you need to understand is that I've taught people, many people, thousands of people, how to do this work at a distance. And we have a whole network of practitioners now, 400 or so, almost 400 practitioners now worldwide who do this work. And this is a very, very pure form of energy work. So I'm going to show you how this works, and we'll talk people through this, and maybe it'll help people understand the process. It's very, very simple. But before we start, what I like to do is just take a moment of silence and ask for some help from up above. Okay, I'll just take a minute here. Okay, and let's see here. The human body has the ability to set aside its own needs to act on behalf of another person. And we call this working by proxy, okay? So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to act as proxy for you, and let's just see if we've got a good connection. I'm muscle testing myself, okay? So when I ask questions, I'm actually muscle testing myself. I'm testing the strength of my own fingers, and we have a bunch of different methods of doing this. It's very, very simple. So we're connected now, and so everything that I find on you, I can release actually on myself, but since I'm acting as proxy for you, it releases on you. And you may be able to feel that release. So let's ask, first of all, that situation that you described of feeling like you've always got to be doing something, is there a trapped emotion that is contributing to that we can release now? And the answer is yes. Okay. So how do we find these emotions? Well, we have a chart of emotions in the book, in the videos. It's a chart that's divided into 2 columns and 6 rows. There are 60 emotions on this chart. And so the first thing I'm going to do is try to eliminate half of the chart by finding out which column this emotion is in. Now, I have no idea what emotion it is. You have no idea, but your subconscious mind knows exactly what it is, because the subconscious, you see, is 90% of your intelligence. And the conscious mind is only 10% of that intelligence. And so it doesn't really know what's going on, but the subconscious knows it all. And I'm in tune with that. I'm hooked right into that right now. So this trapped emotion, is it listed in column A in our chart? No. Okay, so we just got rid of column A. That's 30 emotions we just got rid of. So now we know it's in column B. And is it in one of the odd rows or the even rows? So that helps us to, again, divide the list in half. And so is it in one of the odd rows? Yes, it is. Is it in row 1 or row 3? Okay, so it's in row 3, column B. We've just narrowed it down to 5 emotions. You see how fast this is?
Wow. So
it's either confusion, defensiveness, grief, self-abuse, or stubbornness. So let's see which one it is. I have no idea, but is this trapped emotion? Could be. Well, the body gets us one at a time. It's kind of like a Pez dispenser. Your subconscious mind will give you one thing at a time, kind of like a Pez will give you one candy. That's all you get at a time. So is this confusion, or is it defensiveness, or is it guilt? Let's see here. Self-abuse, stubbornness. Actually, the emotion is not what I say, guilt. I meant grief. The emotion is grief. It's grief. So let's see when this occurred. Did this occur earlier? Let's see. We'll divide your life. Are you okay with telling us how old you are or not? If not, I can.
Actually, I was 60.
Okay, awesome. Let's ask, did this occur earlier than age 30, or did it occur between 30 and 40? I'm testing myself. I'm getting a no on both of those. Did it occur between 40 and 50? Yes, between 40 and 50. Did it occur between 40 and 45? No. Around 46? No. 47? No. 48? Yes. 49, 50? No. Okay, so age 48, grief. And see if that rings a bell. Now, this is accurate within a year, generally plus or minus. You might have been 47 or you might have been 49, but you were probably 48. Something happened that created a trapped emotion of grief for you. And that's interfering now with your ability to relax.
Oh, I know exactly. I got it. Okay. Well, I just have to say my whole physiology just shifted. I have to tell you, when you said, when your father did that prayer for you and you felt that whoosh from the top of your head to the tip of your toes, I just felt a whoosh from the tip of my toes to the top of my head. My whole physiology just, I won't share it because it's a little bit political, but,
that's okay.
So I don't think that it's necessary, but all I have to say is, as soon as I got it, my whole physiology, just every cell just fired. I can't explain it. It was
that's
just
awesome.
This amazing shift in my body.
Well, that's awesome, and we haven't even released the trapped emotion yet. So,
oh my
so
gosh.
just wait. But now, let's ask:
okay.
Do we need to know more about this emotion? And your body says no. Now, one of the beautiful things about the emotion code is that we allow the subconscious mind to guide us, you see, and it is the most amazing computer that exists in the whole universe, and it knows everything, and it's tied into the database of all that is, universal intelligence and the intelligence of God and everything else, and I believe that we've always existed, each one of us, that we're eternal beings, that we have no beginning and that we'll have no end. So think of all the information that is locked up in that subconscious mind. It's really a mind-boggling thing. But the beauty of this also, is that if you're working with somebody and something like this comes up, they don't have to divulge about what happened. They don't have to say anything. They can just think about something, and then you can ask the subconscious, is that what this is, what created this? And the answer I'm getting in this case was, yeah, absolutely. Whatever it is you were thinking about that created this is exactly what created this. And now we can ask, do we need to know more? Is there more we need to bring to conscious awareness about this? And your subconscious mind says no. So now, to release this, if I were there with you, what I would do is I would take a magnet. Now, you can use any kind of a magnet. If you don't have a magnet, you can use your fingertips. If I were there with you and I had a magnet, I would pass that magnet from probably around the base of your neck down to your low back 3 times. And that's all it takes to release that energy. What we're doing is we're putting energy into the governing meridian, which runs from the top of from the upper lip over the top of the head and all the way down the back to the tailbone. But since I'm acting as proxy for you, I'm going to release this myself, and it's going to release on you. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a magnet and I'm passing it from my forehead over the top of my head to the back of my neck, and that's as much of the governing meridian that we need to pass a magnet on when we're acting as proxy. And let's ask if we've released that trapped emotion, and the answer is yes. So there was a big underlying reason why you have been unable to really relax.
Well, this is going to be very exciting to see how my activity shifts, because right now I'm just wondering if I could get through the rest of this interview because my body is vibrating from this experience. I want to have it 100 more times. Well, I'm definitely going to go further into the emotion code because that was incredibly, incredibly powerful. And I just love it because you are really just tapping into this universal energy. It's like the world wants us to heal, and you have created this technology where we can make use of it. And you've created all of these people, these 400 practitioners around the world who are skilled at helping to do this. I'm just so excited and impressed, and I have another question. I know that you can also use the emotion code to find love, and there's somebody used the term heart wall. What is that all about?
Well, let me explain that. But before I do, just so I don't forget, I just want to also mention that the emotion code works with animals as well. And that was a kind of a serendipitous discovery, an accidental discovery years ago. And but we've seen many, many amazing, really miraculous things working with animals. And when you learn how to do the emotion code, you're really learning to become a human whisperer. But at the same time, if you know the emotion code, it's the same exact process to work with animals. And I'm telling you, if you learn how to do this, when you work with animals, you'll see that 90% of all of their problems, either physical or emotional, behavioral, they're all due to trapped emotions. And you will see, I guarantee you, if you do this work, and it's so easy, I guarantee you'll see miracles happen. If you do it with animals, you'll see miracles with animals. If you do it with people, you'll see miracles with people. And the heart wall is so powerful. I got an email. In fact, I got up early this morning, and I was answering some questions on Facebook. And there was a lady there who said that she, over the last few months, she released the heart wall from 3 of her clients, and all 3 of those clients were alone at the time and they weren't in love. Now, all of them in love. Think about that. How powerful is that? Well, let me explain the heart wall and what it is. The heart is, of course, in Western medicine, we know some basic facts about the heart. We know that the heart beats about 100,000 times a day, 40 million times a year, and it's a pump, and that's what it does. It pumps blood. But anciently, the ancient peoples believed that the heart was much more. They believed that the heart was the seat of the soul and the core of our being and the source of our love and the source of all of our creativity. Well, in the West, we've always thought that was poetic license, and that those ancient peoples were just silly. There are ancient writings in the Bible, for example, that say things like, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." And that never really made much sense to us in the West. And so, in fact, the ancient Egyptians believed that when you die, you go through a ceremony that they called the weighing of the heart, where your heart is weighed, not physically, but your heart is weighed to determine what kind of a person you were in this world. And so we've always thought that was all just silliness. But when we started transplanting hearts several decades ago, a strange thing started to happen. People started to come back and report that they had inherited affinities and loves and even memories from the donor. In fact, some stories I read recently, there was a man by the name of Paul, who's a lawyer from Milwaukee. He received a heart from a 14-year-old boy, and with his heart, he inherited this strange, powerful craving for Snickers bars, which I assume he buys by the box now. And there was another really interesting one where a 25-year-old man received a woman's heart, and now, to the delight of his girlfriend, has a consistent and powerful need to shop. She always wanted a shopping partner, and she's got one now. And isn't that interesting? Well, yes. One of the most amazing stories that I ever read was where a 7-year-old girl had recurring nightmares about being killed after receiving the heart of another child who had been murdered. And her descriptions of the murderer, as well as the murder weapon, led to the arrest and conviction of the killer, the donor's killer. Think about that. So, in other words, this little girl gets this heart transplant from a young girl who had been murdered, and in her dreams, she sees basically the murder. She's seeing the murder that happened, how it all took place. And so it was so consistent and so powerful, her parents took her to the police, and they were able to do a composite drawing from her dreams that led to to finding this person. So it's an amazing thing. Well, we now measure the heart's magnetic field with a machine called a magnetocardiogram. And when we measure the heart's magnetic field, we find that it extends out around the heart 12 feet in diameter. And we believe now that heartbeat is a means of communication to every cell in the body, and that the cells in your body are obeying the messages sent by that heart brain. See, we believe that the heart is actually a second brain. And I believe now that we are living in the age of the heart, And people are going to understand, the world is going to wake up and realize that for all these centuries, we have been living using the brain in our heads. And that's the reason why. Have you ever wondered, here it is 2012, and it seems like nothing changes. It seems like even though our technology advances, we are still talking about how it's perfectly okay to declare war on other countries and bomb other countries, and that's perfectly acceptable. Well, that's because we're using the brain in our head. And that brain that's in our head doesn't feel anything. It's the heart brain that feels. And what's going to transform this planet, you see, is when we get enough people that are actually using the brain in their heart. Now listen to this. This is an amazing thing. If you are in a laboratory and you're feeling feelings of love or affection for another person, and that other person is hooked up to a what's called a magnetoencephalograph machine, your heartbeat will actually appear in that other person's brain waves, and they've proven this in the lab over and over. So let me say that again. If you're feeling love or affection for another person, your heartbeat somehow is transmitted to them and is actually measurable in their brain waves. Think about that.
Wow.
That's an astonishing thing. Well, so you see there's this invisible communication going on between all of us all the time. And sometimes what happens is that that communication can be interfered with because we end up forming what we call a heart wall. Now, in every culture, in every language, there's a word for that feeling that we have that we call heartache, that physical sensation in the chest, that feeling like there's an elephant sitting on you when you're feeling really deeply grieved or you're truly feeling hurt by somebody or something. Most of us have felt that feeling at one point or another. Well, that is really an assault. When your heart feels like it's going to break, that's really an assault on the deepest part of your being. And your spirit, your subconscious mind does not like that feeling at all. And so if that happens to you more than a couple of times, your subconscious mind will try to defend and protect your heart by putting up a wall of energy around that heart, like a force field. And how this was discovered actually is very interesting. I was at a conference on magnetic healing. I was one of the speakers. This was in 1998. And my wife, early on the morning of this conference, she woke me up and she said that she'd had a dream. And in her dream, she saw 3 symbols. And when she woke up, she knew that these 3 symbols had to do with her health and well-being. And so she asked me if I'd help her figure out what these symbols meant. And so we did. We figured out the first 2, and they were emotional things we hadn't figured out before. We cleared those out. When I turned my attention to the 3rd symbol from her dream, I suddenly had an amazing experience. I suddenly had what I can only describe as a waking vision, where suddenly before me I saw this incredible hardwood floor, the most beautiful floor I've ever seen. It looked like it had 100 coats of polish. It was amazing looking. And this lasted. This wasn't something that I imagined. It just all of a sudden was there right in front of me, and it lasted for probably 3 or 4 minutes. And as I'm seeing this in astonishment, my mind is also full of understanding that my wife's heart is underneath this floor. Well, I told her what I was seeing and understanding, and neither one of us had any idea what this was about, but we were obviously being taken someplace. So we prayed for guidance, and we started doing some testing. And what we found was that she had a wall around her heart. When she was born, she came into a very dysfunctional family with a father who was a rageaholic, and by the time she was 2 years old, she had felt that pain, that heartache feeling enough that her subconscious started building a wall around that heart. Now that wall is actually, it's a real thing. You can't see it, it's invisible, but it's a real thing. It exists on the energy level, and it is made from layers of trapped emotions, you see. And so we started releasing these emotions. Now, the price that she'd paid for having this wall was that she, all of her life, had felt difficulty in making friends. whenever she was with a group of people, social engagement, she always felt like she felt like she was on the outside looking in. And when we released the last emotion, I think there were 7 or 8 emotions making up her heart wall. When we released that last emotion, she suddenly had the feeling like she was on the inside looking out, like she belonged for the first time. And it's made a tremendous, tremendous difference for her. Well, when you have a heart wall, and by the way, 93% of people have a heart wall. So the vast majority of people have this, and it hampers your ability to give and receive love. Remember, that love, that energy that you feel when you're feeling love for another person, your heartbeat shows up in their brainwaves as if by magic. Well, when you have a heart wall, it interferes with that, and it contributes to these feelings of isolation. It creates depression. In fact, every seriously depressed person that we have seen in all these years has always had a heart wall. And I've seen people suicidally depressed get well simply by releasing the emotions that are trapped around that heart, you see. Well, I can tell you a few stories about this. There was a woman who wrote to me, and there are so many stories, and we get emails every day from people literally all over the world who are using the emotion code. They're getting rid of their own heart wall. They're changing their lives by getting rid of their emotional baggage. But there was a lady who wrote to me. Her name was Lalani. She said, "I now feel safe inside deeply in my body, heart, and mind. I also feel comfortable in crowds. The deep, deep sadness, anger, and confusion I felt my whole life is gone. Gone, gone, gone. Thank you from the bottom of my now heart wall-free heart." And another story that I have to tell you was there's no age limit on these things either. There was a young boy that was brought in to see me when I was in practice who was diagnosed as being clinically depressed. And what had happened was we tested him and found that he had a heart wall. And what had happened was over the previous 5 or so years, there had been a number of deaths in the family. And that had added layers to this heart wall because of the pain from that. But what we found was that the original trapped emotion that had created this heart wall for him happened at a family reunion about 5 years before. He was there. His sister was teaching a little cousin of his. He actually was 5 years old, so 4 years before. She was teaching this little cousin of his how to swim. There was no adult supervision, and his sister, who was the babysitter, actually ended up having this tremendous emotion of grief because this little boy drowned. And his sister's grief and guilt over having this happen on her watch was so powerful and so unbearable for him, really, that emotion not only became stuck in his body, but it also was incorporated into this wall around his heart to protect his heart from being totally broken. Now, if you think about it, it makes perfect sense that this is really how the body works. There was another story that I want to tell you. There was a patient that I had. Her name was Lynn, and she worked for Disneyland. And she was in her 50s. She was single, and she came to me for fibromyalgia. We worked with her and got rid of her fibromyalgia. But as we were working with her, we found that she had a heart wall, and we worked on her heart wall and cleared that heart wall. And she wrote to me, and she said, "As I reflect back on the time after my heart wall cleared, I realized things weren't the same. I began to open myself to the idea of having someone in my life to have and to hold and to care for as he would care for me. It happened on the feeling level. Finding someone to share my life with just felt like the next step. There was a new readiness that I hadn't felt before. It must have been that the removal of that invisible wall that I had not even known was there that allowed me to let this wonderful man in." So for all of you who think women cannot marry after a certain age, get your heart wall cleared, stay open to the possibilities life has to offer, and remember my story. We are now approaching our 5th anniversary, have just moved into our new home on the California coast overlooking the ocean in Catalina Island, and are living the fairy tale. Thank you, Dr. Nelson. So you see, this is the reason why this work, the emotion code, is so powerful, because people are able finally for the first time to really get rid of their emotional baggage. And you know, there's even more to it, because if you think about think about the advice that you were probably given when you graduated from high school. And the best advice you could ever get is follow your heart. And, Steve Jobs gave that advice in the commencement address that he gave at Stanford. I think it was in 2005. But what if you have a heart wall? What happens then? Steve Jobs, by the way, I believe is one of the people that I like to call a 7%er, because he's one of the 7% of people, I think he was, one of the 7% of people that did not have a heart wall. But if you have a heart wall, what happens? Well, your ability to find success will be hampered if you have a heart wall. And many people have found success after having their heart wall removed. And I'm going to just share one story with you. This is a woman named Elena from Mexico City. And she worked on herself. She cleared her own heart wall. And here's what she felt and what happened to her after her heart wall was removed. Remember that 93% of people have one of these. She said, I'm feeling an awesome difference since I released my heart wall. To begin with, my self-esteem has gone up to the sky. I mean, what's that worth? Secondly, I've been having one creative idea after the other. What's that worth? I mean, that's where the best creative ideas that you have are not in your head. They're in your heart. Look at Steve Jobs. What did he do? He never needed to use focus groups. He created all these amazing things. And what he said was, people don't know what they want until we show them. He never used focus groups. He always knew where he was going. People that didn't agree, he just referred to as bozos. And he said, you've got to follow your heart. You've got to follow your intuition, you see. But when you've got a heart wall, it's interfered with. That heart is interfered with. Elena said, I feel the driving force which seemed to have left me long ago is back again with a lot of strength. I cannot really express how grateful I am to you and to God in the first place that led me to find you and your work. I mean, how amazing and how profound is that? And so, sorry, go ahead.
No, I have a question because this is actually mind-blowing, and I am absolutely certain that it has to be true that the heart wall should be removed, can be removed, and this is the time in creation that this technology has emerged because, as you said, this is the time that the world needs people who are not living from their brain but are living from their heart. So this technology is going to allow more and more and more people to do that so that we can shift the planet in this positive direction. But I have a question about that. We have so many negative emotions in the course of our daily lives. When we have the heart wall removed and then we're faced with something that is traumatic or negative, how does that work when we're in a way like open or vulnerable? Can you explain?
Well, typically what happens with people is as they start to become more emotionally clear, they find that things that used to bother them don't bother them anymore. And things that used to affect them don't affect them. In fact, there's a lady who comes to mind who came to me when I was in practice. And one of the things that we found with her was that she had a trapped emotion of resentment. And it dated back to her high school years. And she was about 42, I think, at the time. And it was resentment about a female. And she said, oh, I know exactly what that's about. And I said, okay, well, what's it about? And she said when she was in high school, she developed this real serious resentment towards this girl who was a cheerleader. And she said, it's a funny thing, but I haven't been in high school now for many, many years. But she said, whenever I think of that girl, it's a funny thing because I can just feel the resentment just welling up inside of me. And I haven't even seen her for 20 years. And so we released that trapped emotion of resentment, which, again, just takes seconds. And then later, it was the next day, she came back and she said, she said, that really works because she said, last night I was with my friend and we were talking about high school days. And that girl came up in conversation and she said, for the first time in all these years, I didn't feel that resentment welling up anymore, so I just didn't feel anything, And so when we release these trapped emotions, really there are two effects that happen. There's a physical effect, because when you have a trapped emotion, if you think about your own body's energy field, that's really all you are. You are a being of pure energy. But trapped emotions will encumber that energy field, and they will make that energy field much less clean and much less clear than it actually should be. And so when we are releasing these trapped emotions, what we're doing is we're bringing people back into the pure beings of energy that they are intended to be. And their pain and their malfunction and their phobias and all these things fall away, and they end up being much, much closer to who they were really intended to be. Excuse me. So anyway, that's really the best answer that I can give you to that one, is that it changes you. You change so that things that used to really bother you don't bother you anymore. And there's no age limit to this. In fact, I was telling some people recently about one of my kids. I've got twin boys that are 22, almost 23 years old now. And when they were about 3.5 or so years old, one of them developed this problem with me. And I didn't know what it was, but when I would try to be close to him, he would take a swing at me, and he called me bad doctor. He'd say, "Bad doctor, away." And he would try to hit me. And at first, people thought it was funny, and it's just a phase. He'll grow out of this, but he didn't. It just kept going on and on and on. It never changed, and I didn't know what to do about it. And my wife and I were sitting one day with him, and he was sitting on her lap. And I leaned forward and leaned over to try to give him a hug, and he did the same thing, "Bad doctor, away," and he took a swing at me. And this had been going on for months, and all of a sudden, the weight of it just hit me, and I just started to tear up, and it just really hurt. I didn't know what to do. And at that point, we were just learning about these trapped emotions, and my wife said, maybe he's got a trapped emotion. And I said, yeah, well, maybe he does. So I tested him, and he did. He had a trapped emotion of grief. It was that I had grief about him about something, and we never did identify what it was, but he and his twin brother probably did something with lipstick on our white shag carpet, is what I'm thinking, probably. He probably got in trouble for that. So anyway, he developed a trapped emotion. Well, I released that trapped emotion, and after months and months of that behavior, when I released that trapped emotion, he walked right over to me immediately and put his arms around me. And I just broke down crying. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. And the next day I went to work at my practice, and I was telling everybody about this, and there was a patient there. She said, maybe my daughter's got a trapped emotion, because she said, my husband is an airline pilot, and he's gone for days at a time, and when he comes home, our daughter runs and hides from him, and it just breaks his heart. And I said, well, bring her in. And she brought her in, and we tested her. She did have a trapped emotion about this, and we released it. And she came back a week later, and this woman said, she said, that really worked, because she said, when my husband came home this time, our daughter ran and jumped into his arms, and she's never done that before. So, what we have here is a real thing. I'm not making this up, and this work is not about me. It has nothing to do with me, except for the fact that I was the person chosen to bring this to the world. But it really is the simplest and most efficient and fastest method of releasing trapped emotions that's ever been devised, and it's easily learned by anybody. And by the way, when we release these trapped emotions, that release is permanent, and these things don't come back. And there's so much work. We could talk all day.
I've been so entranced by this, and I know that you have this incredible offer. And I have to say, one of the things I'm so excited about is I have so many friends who are involved with placing animals from shelters, and so many of these animals in shelters come because they're just filled with trauma. And my head is just like buzzing over how this could work for these animals at the shelters, so that they could be placed in homes, and because it has to be, like you say, it works so well for them, and it's just trapped emotion. So there's so many implications for this. You have to tell us about your offer for our listeners.
Okay. Well, I've been all over the world teaching the Emotion Code seminar, and I get requests from people to come and teach the seminar in all kinds of different places. But eventually what we did, because there's only one of me, what we did is we recorded a seminar in high definition, and we created a DVD package that has the whole seminar in it. And it sells on our website for $297, And that's part of this package. It's a $97 package that we have for your listeners today. And so they get that. It's the whole entire seminar. And so what you do is you can plug the DVDs into your player and just sit back, and then you basically attend the whole seminar, and you get to see me teach all of this and teach you how to do all the different kinds of muscle testing, get answers out of the body. We teach you how to find inherited emotions and release those, because you may not only look like Grandpa, you might have his anger, or his depression, and that can make a huge difference. And you see us, you see me bring people out of the audience and work with them, and so it's a great experience right there. Well, that's part of the package. We also include a little magnetic chart that it's a 3x5 chart. It has all the emotions on it, and it's magnetic. So what you can do is you can use that to release the emotions. It has the chart on it, by the way, at the same time, so it's really handy. And those are two things that we will actually ship to you. And then there are two other items that you can immediately download. One of those is the Emotion Code book. Okay, that's the ebook version. So you can immediately download that and start reading it. But we also include the Emotion Code book on audio. So that's the MP3s. Now, this is what this little 11-year-old boy listened to, see, the audio book. And that's me reading the book to you, which is great because you can burn those MP3s onto CDs, put them in your car, burn them onto your iPhone, your iPod, your iPad, whatever. And anyway, so that's the whole package. So the total value of this package is $384 and something, and it's $97 for your listeners. And also, we have a money-back unconditional guarantee. If you decide that this, for whatever reason, is just not right for you right now, you can send it back within 30 days, and we'll give you all your money back except for shipping. And you get to keep the Emotion Code ebook and the Emotion Code audio MP3s as our gift to you, because we really want you to have this. So that's the deal. It's a great deal. Okay, can change your whole life.
Totally. Well, when you said, the value is $397, I'm thinking you've got to be kidding, because the value of this is so much more than $397. And you're offering, the entire seminar on DVD is plus the chart, plus the ebook, which I started reading, plus the audio, so you could listen to it while you're driving in your car, for $97. This is just phenomenal, because really, just getting rid of one trapped emotion could completely shift your life, as you've shared with us in the different examples that you've said. But learning how to muscle test and all of the different things that you're going to learn watching you in the live seminar, this is so generous and so exciting and so phenomenal. I really don't know what to say. So thank you so much. And where people go to find the details, just go to www.newtransformationstrategies, which of course is the name of this series. And if you don't know how to spell strategies, it's STRATEGIES, strategies.com/emotion. Okay, so newtransformationstrategies.com/emotion, and you will see all of the details about the seminar on DVD and the magnetic chart, and you can immediately, and those are going to be sent to you, but you can immediately download the ebook once you decide that you want this for yourself, and also immediately download the book on audio. So fantastic. And before we say goodbye to you, I hope that everybody is excited about this as I am, and I really am. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with our listeners before we sign off?
Well, I believe that the only way that we're going to change this world and bring it to a higher level of civilization is by changing the inhabitants of this earth one at a time. And I started to say this before, but really by helping people to shed their emotional baggage, we transform them back into the pure spirits that they should be, and they become empowered to become who God intended them to become. And their pains and their phobias and their addictions and their self-defeating behaviors and their self-sabotage all fall away. And the pure essence of each individual shines forth from each heart, filling the immensity of space. That's how the world is going to change. And that's going to happen. I guarantee you it's going to happen. So I really hope that you'll join me and become a part of this work. And the destiny of this work really is to help transform this earth to a higher plane of existence, one life at a time. And by the way, if you're a healer or you feel like you might secretly have a healer locked up inside of you, you can become certified in the emotion code. The beauty of it is it creates a business for you that is completely portable. You can take it anywhere. You can have clientele all over the world, and you can help to change people's lives. It doesn't matter where they are. They can be literally anywhere. So I really hope you'll seriously take a look at this.
Yeah, and you know what I love about that is that people can add it on to their practice. If they are an osteopath, if they are a chiropractor, if they are a massage therapist, whatever they're doing now in the healing arts, what an amazing tool to add to their toolbox. And another source of income because it could be done long distance and they don't have to have the people come into their office. So that is just fantastic. I just want to say the URL one more time. It's newtransformationstrategies.com/emotion. So our health practitioners and healers on the line definitely should take the first step and watch the seminar on DVD. Well, thank you so much for being with us. What you have is definitely a new transformation strategy, and I know it's transforming and has transformed the lives of thousands of people, and I really hope our listeners will take advantage of it. So thank you again, Dr. Brad. You're sensational. Thank you for all the work.
Well, thank you, Deborah. It's an honor to be on your show, and have a fantastic day, and off we go, onward and upward.
Yes. And thank you to all of our listeners for spending this time with us. And if you enjoyed this call, please feel free to tell your friends and families. You can share this link with them. And I look forward to sharing more new and effective transformation strategies with you in the coming days. This is Deborah Poneman. Have a wonderful evening. I know after tonight's interview that you will. Bye for now. 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 Bye for now.